Good evening and welcome back to the Johnson Space Center for tonight's post-landing news conference at the conclusion of the STS-86 mission. With us tonight to talk about the flight and its aftermath are Tommy Holloway, the Space Shuttle Program Manager, Frank Culbertson, the Phase 1 Shuttle Mirror Program Director, Linda Ham, the STS-86 Entry Flight Director, and Dr. Roger Bellica, the Chief of Medical Operations here at the Johnson Space Center. And we'll start off with Tommy.
We have just landed STS-86, the 11th consecutive landing at the Kennedy Space Center, which in itself is a testimony to the flight ops people who manage that activity and the weather people who they consult with to make sure that the weather is okay. I'm also believe that that's 18 out of 19 times in the last 19 flights that we've landed at Kennedy, so our operations are maturing very nicely. STS-86 is a testimony to what we set out to do when Phase 1 was put in place 4 years ago in terms of learning to work together with the Russians, learning how to do station operations. We're working well together in terms of planning our logistics pre-flight and adapting in real time, as well as how we operate in real time and helping each other get our job done. This flight also had some additional DTOs that were successful. We flew GPS for the X-33 program, both during ascent and entry. We also flew our own GPS system that will be incorporated in the shuttle in later years. And we also flew a new sequential S-band system that will allow us to have sequential pictures from the television system when KU band is not available. STS-86 was a complete flight in every way. We're very pleased with its content and the performance. The hardware performed exceptionally well, and as usual, the flight team executed it in an exemplary fashion. So with that, Frank.
Thank you very much, Tommy, and I'd also like to thank you and your whole team for a great job with the shuttle. Without that, it wouldn't be possible, and everybody's been very responsive and of course very professional in executing this. We were able to transfer over 5 tons of equipment and logistics in both directions, and did that very smoothly with an EVA in the middle of it that also was executed very well. So great job by you and the shuttle program, and thanks for your teaching as my predecessor, and to Linda and the flight team and the rest of the flight controllers on all the shifts. Great job in executing the mission along with the crews, of course. Things are continuing to go well on the Mir, except for the fact that they've delayed the progress undocking for 1 day. It was supposed to have occurred early this morning Houston time, but because of a latch that was left in place inside the vestibule where the 2 spacecraft are joined, they were not able to undock it, so they delayed that 1 day. They did find the latch. It has been removed, and they're ready to go probably at about 6 o'clock in the morning Houston time tomorrow, and then they'll redock or dock the oncoming progress the following day on Wednesday. Dave Wolf has begun his science program on board. Things are going well in that regard, and he has a very full schedule, but we do allow him some time to get settled and to continue to set up shop on board the Mir. And the Mir crew is, of course, continuing their routine activities and conducting some maintenance. The ground team is in place, his new ops lead, new flight surgeon, and they're all working well together, and so we're very happy with that. And again, we're very proud of the STS-86 crew, the job they did, and most importantly, we'd like to welcome home Mike Foale, who has done a great job on board the Mir, and I'm sure is happy to be seeing his family soon. I talked to Mike a few minutes ago. He's happy to be back on Earth and happy to be home, and he said it was a great adventure. So, Linda, good job.
Thanks. Okay, well, the orbiter systems operated excellent for this entry today. The only thing we had to work was the weather again, and the forecasters were right on for today. They started out with a forecast of 4,000 scattered, variable broken, with the crosswinds right in limits. And as we got closer to the deorbit opportunity, we watched the weather closely. We had the weather aircraft out looking at the clouds. Looked like the prevailing clouds were scattered at the lower levels at 4,000 feet. We did have some broken clouds, but none would be a factor for the landing. And the winds during the day were peaking up at 18, 19 knots crosswind. But just as the forecaster had predicted, they did start to come down after about 4 o'clock Eastern time and continue to do so. So the landing observation for today was scattered at 4,000 feet, and the winds were 9 peak to 14. So we were well within our limits, and we ended up having a real excellent DURIT and excellent landing here for today. And with that, we'll hand it over to Roger.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to report that the entire crew did very well during the entry and landing, and there were certainly no issues. You probably saw them during the walk around, and they all looked great. And the word from the flight surgeon on the crew transport vehicle is that Michael Foale did very well in addition. The plan at this point is for the crew to spend the night at Kennedy Space Center and have a chance to reunite with their families, get cleaned up, get some rest and some food. And in the morning there will be some additional medical evaluations for Michael Foale, and then of course the entire crew will return to Houston. At that time, Michael Foale will begin typically what would be several weeks of a recovery and rehabilitation program that is supervised, that primarily will focus on rest and good nutrition, as well as some time to reunite with family and friends and reestablish a normal routine back here. He'll also have supervised exercise and a physical rehabilitation program during this time, and a certain amount of medical data collection and science investigations. But overall, Michael did very well during his mission and participated fully in his countermeasure program, and we expect him to do very well and have a very smooth and uneventful recovery here on Earth.
Thank you, Roger. We'll take questions now here in Houston before going around to the other NASA centers. Because of the hour, we'll hold it, if you will, to one question and one follow-up per reporter at each center. And if you could state your name and affiliation, that would be appreciated. We'll start off with Mark.
Mark from the Houston Chronicle for Roger. Just from what you've learned on the previous Americans on Mir, about how long would you expect Mike Foale to take to complete his rehabilitation?
We do the rehabilitation in several phases, and typically the early phase or the acute phase takes a couple of weeks to really get his strength and his endurance back and get his nervous system completely functioning back to normal. Those things happen fairly quickly, but we usually give about a couple of weeks to allow for full recovery. There are some other parameters that take longer, but on the average, by about 30 days, we've been able to clear the crew member for return to duty. There are a few things that we continue to track and watch. There has been some variability, but that's been the average and what's expected. And then there are some things such as the bone density that do take longer to recover, and we'll watch that for an extended period of time.
Okay, we have a number of reporters down at the Kennedy Space Center, so we'll go down there now for questions.
Hi, this is Pete Galtieri from the West Kentucky News. Can you tell us something about the landing? Looks like they rolled pretty long. Was that planned? You could see the crosswind had some sort of effect on the drag chute. Can you talk about that, please, Linda?
Yes, the drag chute, if we have a forecasted crosswind of anywhere from 10 to 50 knots, we delay drag chute deploy until after the nose is on the ground, just so we can get better data on how the orbiter handles in a crosswind. So you saw a delay in drag chute deploy, and of course after they jettison it, you could see it being blown by the wind because of the crosswind. The commander elected to continue to roll without using much brake, so that's why he got all the way down to the end of the runway. But that was no anomalies.
Okay, thanks. And Frank, I was wondering if you guys have had enough time to look over the video and determine if for sure you've got that leak coming from where you guys think it is.
Actually, the only video we received was what was downlinked during the fly around. We're looking forward to getting more video from the orbiter once they've unstowed the photography and gotten it back here to JSC. And we'll have a chance to look at it more carefully, and they'll do some metrics on it in the photo lab.
This is Seth Borenstein from the Orlando Sentinel. Frank, just to continue with you on the on progress on docking latch situation, is that fair to say it was just an oversight and you're not at all concerned about it being a problem on docking tomorrow morning?
There are 32 of these little manual clamps that they put on the Progress to make sure it stays firmly latched when it's there. They overlooked one of them in taking them off. It's understandable under the situation, I believe, and they did the logical thing of repressurizing, opening the hatch and looking, and found it, and I can't imagine why it would be a problem tomorrow. I'm sure it'll work very well.
Okay. And this is either for you, Frank, or for Dr. Bilica. I know this is a question we do every time. Did Michael Foale walk off the shuttle, or was he wheeled or helped, or what? How did he get out?
I can say that the report from the crew surgeon is that Mike Foale did very well and did as expected. I don't have a lot of other details beyond that, but I would like to use this opportunity to once again clarify that the method of them getting off the orbiter really isn't a metric of any significance. It doesn't have any bearing on how well they did during the flight. If they're able to and feel like it, we encourage them to try with assistance, and if they're feeling a little lightheaded or weak or whatever, we give them whatever assistance is required. Again, I don't have full details at this time, but even if we did, we would probably consider that to be private information until such time we have a chance to talk to the crew member and see how he feels about releasing that data.
This is Phil Chen of Earth News. I guess for Linda, how well did the crosswind DTO go? And for Frank, based on everything that's happened the last 6 or 7 months on Mir, from your point of view, what fraction would you attribute to the problems? Would you attribute to the Russian economy, to human errors, to just random errors, and to Mir's age?
In a few days, we'll have better data on the exact wind that we did land, and we should have 1 second data. But again, the tower data indicated that was around 9, peaked to 14, so we likely got the crosswind DTO. The commander reported on the air-to-grounds post-landing that the orbiter handled quite well in the crosswind and even better than the simulator. So based on what I saw today, it looked like the crosswind DTO went quite well. It'll give us a good data point.
And Phil, I don't really have any way of measuring the percentage effect of any of those factors on the things that have occurred. These are all things that can occur in any program when you've got hardware and people on orbit, and all of them are due to a variety of factors. The most important thing is to understand why something happened and what you have to do to prevent it from happening in the future, and I believe people have done an excellent job of that.
This is Alan Boyle from MSNBC, I guess for Frank. Did David Wolf have any comments, perhaps after Sunday's delay or during the approach and landing, about how things were going with Atlantis? And more generally, what's David been up to, and has he made any comments about how he's adjusting to life on Mir?
Well, it's about 3 in the morning for Dave right now, so I hope he's asleep. I'm sure that he'll be interested in when he gets up in the morning whether they landed safely or not. And I didn't hear any comments from him other than the normal curiosity of whether the shuttle had delayed and why. Weather is a pretty usual reason for that, and I'm sure he understood completely. I did get an email from David who said he's very happy to be where he is. He's settling in nicely and enjoys working with his crewmates, and is very enthusiastic about the mission ahead of him and all the things he has to do up there. He seems pretty well occupied.
This is Sue Butler for the Associated Press, and this is directed to Dr. Bilica. You mentioned the crew's going back tomorrow, but Mike Foale still has a lot of medical tests right here at the Kennedy Center. Can you state categorically that he's going home and tomorrow, and do you have any problems with him spending his first night at home tomorrow in Houston?
That's a good question, and most of those answers, we take it a step at a time as he progresses in his rehabilitation. Immediately after landing, the situation changes very rapidly as the crew member begins to recover. Certainly we don't expect any problem with him coming back along with the crew tomorrow. Every indication is that he should be able to do that. If for some reason there is a complication or a problem with that, we have standby arrangements to keep him there in Florida as long as necessary, but we certainly hope he'll be able to come back. And at the same time, we also, the nominal plan is for him to be able to go home with his family tomorrow under medical supervision with people present from our medical team to assist as necessary. Again, if there's any problems after he returns to Houston, we do have standby arrangements to take care of them, perhaps at crew quarters or wherever it's indicated. But again, we make those decisions a step at a time as the situation unfolds. But I think he'll do just fine.
This is Kevin Oliver from Central Florida News 13. This is for Tommy Holloway. Have you made any decisions on OMDP for the next shuttle? Will it be serviced at KSC or in California?
104 will go to California for OMDP as soon as we go through the preparation phase.
And then for Dr. Bilica, Michael Full has expressed an interest in drinking a beer once he got back here to Earth. Is it okay for him to drink that beer?
If everything is as we expect, that will be just fine. And we hope he enjoys it.
Okay, that wraps up all the questions at the Kennedy Space Center. Any follow-ups here in Houston? Seeing none, before we close, a few programming notes. Sometime between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. Central Time tonight, 11 p.m. and midnight Eastern Time, Kennedy Space Center TV will be recording Mike Foale in the KSC crew quarters, and we expect to have some comments from Foale as he begins his readaptation to life on Earth. That video will be played on NASA TV as soon as the tape returns to the KSC press site. Stay tuned to NASA TV for updated information regarding that full playback. Tomorrow at the Kennedy Space Center, the STS-86 astronauts minus Foale will hold their post-landing news conference in the early afternoon before departing KSC to return to Houston. We don't have a firm time for the news conference. Again, consult NASA TV or the KSC Press Center tomorrow morning. And finally, the astronauts will return to Ellington Field tomorrow in the late afternoon or early evening. We'll have updated information on the exact time of crew arrival sometime around midday tomorrow. Thanks a lot.